Chapter 12. The high priest and I follow Elena across the road. She turns us around so we could admire a semicircular terrace of 5-story buildings. This is the Royal Crescent. In front of each building is an open space with an iron railing. Last night I saw the railing in front of our building from the opposite side when I looked out the window in the basement kitchen. Like the rest of the city of Bath, the Royal Crescent was built of oolitic limestone. The color of the stone reminds me of honey, dark honey in the shade, but golden in the light. How happy I felt at sunrise when the limestone of ancient Egypt glowed with the renewed light. How peaceful I felt at sunset when it was set on fire, and how sad I felt when night covered it in shrouds. Elena's raised voice brings me back to reality. She's giving us more details about the history of the Royal Crescent. Pretty boring stuff, but I decide to pay attention in case I'm tested. It's too late. I only get Elena's last words. Facade of ionic columns. If she tested me right now, I'd be in a lot of trouble. So, Gato Haman, how many years did it take to build the crescent? What a relief she isn't asking me. I know the answer, but perhaps Rapa Haman would like to show you he does too. Of all the dirty tricks. All right, says Elena, bending over the carrier bag to look at me. How many years, Rapa Haman? A few seconds pass. 8 years, I answer. It was begun in 1767 and complete in 1775. Oh, Rapa Haman, Elena says, delighted. You were listening, my darling Puss in Boat. She straightens up and looks at the high priest. I bet you didn't know the answer. That's why you wanted me to ask Rapa Haman. My carrier bag is resting on his hip, and through the thin nylon mesh I feel him stiffen. He's asking himself how I came up with the answer. He'll never guess that when Elena bent over the carrier bag to put her question to me, I looked up and read the information on the back of the tourist map in her hand. Good morning, madam, I hear when we resume walking. Good morning, Harry, Elena replies. Dressed in a uniform, Harry is standing in front of one of the buildings on the Royal Crescent. Who is he? Asks the high priest when the man is out of earshot. He's the concierge of the Royal Crescent Hotel. But how does he know you? I told you our hostess left me a pass giving me access to the hotel spa. I made good use of it while you were still in New York, remember? Vaguely, he answers, annoyed he can't remember. If you like, later we can go for a swim. Would you enjoy that? Yes, I would, he says, cheering up. What about me? I ask. You can't go swimming with us, Rapa Haman, but there's something else for you. The hotel has a front section and a back section. Small buildings with more bedrooms, a restaurant, and the pool. In between is a lovely garden. You can amuse yourself there. We walk down a street to a circle of buildings like those on the Royal Crescent. It's as if 3 smaller crescents had been joined together, with only a narrow road dividing one from the other. In the middle of the circle, surrounded by a wider road, is a lawn with a large shady tree in the center. Stonehenge had circles of stone that stood on a green field. This is the circus, Elena tells us. It was designed by John Wood, but soon after building began, he died. His son completed it. Gato Haman, do you remember his name? I'll give you a hint. He also designed the Royal Crescent. It's on the tip of my tongue, he says, stalling for time. 10 seconds go by. Well? She asks impatiently. I crane my neck to find the answer on the back of her map. John Wood the Younger. Elena unzips the carrier bag just enough so she can pat me on the head. My darling Puss in Boat, you are the best. Unlike this dunce, she says, pointing her thumb at the high priest. Again, I feel him stiffen. A man dressed in a raincoat comes out of one of the buildings on the circus and walks in our direction. In one hand, he carries a small suitcase, in the other, an umbrella. He uses the umbrella like a walking stick. As he passes us, he gives us a look that can only be translated as tourist pests. That man came out of number 17, says Elena when he's walked on. A very famous 18th century painter lived there. Thomas Gainsborough. Our hostess owns a painting of his. A portrait of a lady in a blue dress. Has either of you noticed it? I saw it this morning, I say, excited. That reminds me. Why are the other rooms on our floor locked? Elena sighs. It's not just on the first floor, but the second as well. And I would like to know why myself. Why don't you ask John? No answer. Ah, you don't want to admit you've been snooping. Well, yes. No. What I mean is, I wouldn't call it snooping. Elena, remember who you're talking to. All right, I was snooping. Now that's settled. There's something about the portrait of the lady in the blue dress that bothers me, but I can't quite put my paw on it. I also felt there was something not quite right about the portrait. That I have a degree in fine art. You knew it intuitively. I'm very impressed. Have you figured out what's wrong? Yes. The woman's face was later altered by someone other than Gainsborough. Who cares who painted the face? The high priest suddenly says. We are supposed to be going to a flea market. He's surly because he didn't know the answers to Elena's questions and didn't notice there was something wrong with the portrait. But hearing it from me would only upset him more. Look at the time, Elena says. We should have been at the flea market by now. She quickens her pace. The high priest struggles to keep up with her, and I'm bounced from one side of my carrier bag to another. We leave the circus by one of the 3 streets that intersect the road around the lawn. The assembly rooms, says Elena, nodding toward a building we're rushing past. The costume museum is there. We'll have to come back to visit it. We turn right, hurry down another street, then dash across a road and almost get killed by a lorry. I'll have to remember the driver's colorful curses. When we reach the safety of the pavement on the other side, Elena and the high priest pause to give themselves a chance to stop shaking. I'm in shock myself. Have you ever heard of crossing at a traffic light? I ask Elena when I've recovered slightly. Sorry, she says, still breathless. At a slower pace, we walk to a crossing with a traffic light and turn left on a narrow piece of pavement lying between 2 roads. On either side of us, cars and lorries are speeding noisily by. A sign says the road we have to cross now is the Roman road. My nerves may be nearly shattered, but my curiosity is still intact. Is the Roman road named after the same Romans who conquered Egypt? I ask Elena. Yes, the Romans were the first to build a city here. They named it Aqua Sulis after the goddess of healing and the natural hot springs. My parents took me to the Roman Museum near Bath Abbey. The Roman baths and the remains of the temple of the goddess Sulis are about 20 feet below street level. My father said a 3rd century Roman writer named Solinus had called the temple and the baths one of the wonders of the world. I can't wait to see them again. The traffic light turns green, and we cross the road. Here it is, Elena says. The Paragon Flea Market. We're standing before a wide shop window. Inside, it's crowded with people walking among stalls crammed with items on display. Through a door on the left, we enter a small vestibule with a sign on the wall that says, More antiques on the floor below. A doorway on the right leads us to the first stall. There's a table laden with purses, gloves, necklaces, bracelets, and other similar items. Elena looks like a child trying to decide which sweet to choose. She picks up an oval-shaped purse made of tiny glass beads and dangles it in front of the high priest. Do you like it? Very pretty, he says. She pushes a small button on top, and the purse opens. I love the plastic frame. It's the color of ivory and in the shape of 2 oriental sea monsters whose heads come together to form the tip of the clasp. A few strokes of blue paint are still visible. You have good taste, says an elderly lady at the other side of the table. Oh, I was just browsing. Elena puts the purse back on the table. The lady picks it up and looks at it as if studying it. £65. That's the best I can do. That's all, the high priest comments. What he means is, that's too much, Elena says hastily. The lady thinks for a few seconds. 60. That's the best I can do. The haggling reminds me of the markets in ancient Egypt. Elena takes the purse from the lady, turns it in her hand, looking at it carefully, then puts it back on the table. Still too much. It's from the 1920s. It's in very good condition, the lady insists. I can't sell it for less than 60. Elena starts to move away. All right, I see how much you like it. You can have it for £55. It's a deal. If Elena had lived in ancient Egypt, she would have been the bane of the merchants. The lady wraps the purse in tissue paper. Elena pays her and we move on. Remember, she tells the high priest, when a dealer gives you a price, you always say, it's too much. Got that? Yes, he says, embarrassed at being scolded for his inability to bargain. The next stall has nothing of interest for Elena. But when we reach the one after that, she gasps. Look at that umbrella. It's from the 1930s. It has green, brown, and dark red stripes. The handle is as clear as glass, shaped like the handle of a sword, with traces of green paint visible in the grooves. Now remember what I told you, she says to the high priest. The dealer is a middle-aged man with a jolly face. Is there something you'd like to see? He asks her. That umbrella, over there, she says, pointing to it. You've a good eye. It's a lady's umbrella from the 30s with a nice lucite handle. He picks it up and passes it to her. I wonder if he notices her hand trembling as she takes it. Go ahead, open it. It's bad luck to open an umbrella indoors, but... Elena points the umbrella down and opens it a tiny bit. The rays seem all right, and there are no holes. It's in very good condition, the dealer points out. Very good condition. How much? £35. Too much, the high priest says. 30. That's the best I can do. Still too much. I'll take it, says a lady standing behind us. What? Yells Elena, clutching the umbrella and turning to face the enemy. Your husband doesn't want to buy it for you, the lady explains, so I'm buying it. No, you're not. Elena turns back to the dealer. I'll give you £35. It's a deal. On second thought, Elena might not have fared well shopping in ancient Egypt. She pays for the umbrella and, as soon as we leave the stall, hits the high priest on the head with it. What the? Because of your cheapness, I almost lost the umbrella. But you told me to bargain. You have to know when to stop. I'm not the only one who remembers the lorry driver's curses. The high priest repeats them, if only in a whisper. What does Elena have in her little hands now? It's a long white scarf with fringes. You've a good eye, the dealer tells her. It's a man's scarf from the 20s. He rolls the material between his fingers. Feel the heavy silk? They don't make scarves like this anymore. How much? Elena asks, giving the high priest a look that says, don't say a word. 30 quid. I'll take it. I'll give you a bag for it, the dealer says when Elena pays. Thank you, but I don't need one. Cheers, then. Cheers. How come you did not bargain? Asks the high priest as we move away from the stall. It's a gift, Elena says disdainfully. One doesn't bargain for gifts. A gift? For whom? For you, of course. Elena wraps the scarf around his neck and kisses him on the cheek. We go down to the lower floor, where she buys a few other items and the high priest makes a purchase of his own. A small copy of Queen Nefertiti's famous bust for 5 quid. I've seen pictures of the painted life-size bust in Elena's books and magazines on ancient Egypt. The beautiful Nefertiti wears a wide collar necklace of colored beads and a tall blue flat-topped headdress, circled by a colored band. Long, colorful streamers hang from the bottom of the headdress down her back. The gold cobra that would have flared above her brow has broken off. She smiles enigmatically. Elena calls it a Mona Lisa smile, and her left eye is missing. Thousands of years ago, the pharaoh and I were traveling on the Nile to Menfi when we passed the ruins of a city. He told me it had been built by Nefertiti and her husband, Pharaoh Akhenaten, and dedicated to the god Aten. They named it Akhetaten. Believing Aten to be the one true god, they closed the temples of the state god Amun-Ra and the other Egyptian gods. But a few years after their deaths, the temples were reopened and the city dedicated to Aten was demolished. I'm hungry, Elena says. I am hungry too, the high priest says. It's about time someone mentioned food. We go back upstairs and leave the flea market the way we came in. The weather has changed. It's overcast now. John recommended a little restaurant called Number 5, Elena says. It's at the other end of the bridge. It looks as if you will make use of your old umbrella, the high priest says. I hope so. I wait until we have a bit of privacy before speaking. That umbrella isn't big enough to cover all of us. Don't be pessimistic. It begins to rain lightly, and Elena opens her umbrella. I smell mildew. When was this umbrella last used? She asks. I imagine the lady who owned is dead and she had it all her life. It is quite possible the lady had to sell her umbrella to make ends meet, the high priest says. I like my story better. If her spirit can see me, she knows I love it. It's raining harder. And if her spirit can see me, I add, she knows my carrier bag is getting wet.